Howdy again. Welcome to another edition of The Works. I'm Jim.
I'm Diane.
Today we want to do a deep dive into sports, and in particular, participation in sports.
Mm-hmm.
Where's it gone? Where's it going? All sports kinds of things.
Yeah.
One of my favorite bits when I was in radio was when I was reading sports, I'd say, and some scores from around the league, 3, 4, and 7. I thought it was funny because you wouldn't tell who played who and
what sport
and what who won. So we'll get to that in a bit. Some follow up from our prior shows or conversations episodes, I think they're called, but update on the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping situation. So here again, not to be the government overreach conspiracy theory guy, but so they're flying drones now with these Bluetooth receivers attached to the bottom of drones and helicopters, helicopters and drones, right? Trying to pick up a signal from her pacemaker
to try and pair to it.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant.
However,
why not? We should have thought of this a while ago, right? But
right.
And again, apparently, I guess they did this a couple of days afterwards. But here's the reality: have you ever had your Bluetooth speaker on and you got your phone in the back pocket, and then you walk into the other room and you can't hear the speaker anymore?
Mm-hmm.
There's no way the distance that Bluetooth can cover, unless the drone was literally flying over the house. So yeah, technically I looked up. Yes, there's the Bluetooth 5.0 standard is that supposedly it's 333 feet of distance.
Oh.
Well, that's outside. I mean, let's face it. 100 meters is the technical specs for Bluetooth 5. But that's, of course, at high transmission, all the perfect factors for radio frequency. And let's face it, there's other radio frequencies that are interfering with Bluetooth. But yeah, I just thought it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I wish it would.
And initially, it wasn't a drone; it was a helicopter.
And
so how low could that helicopter have?
Well, could it, like I said, literally hover over the house and not be, and be, indiscriminate? So that was that's one update I wanted to touch on again. Hope for the best, but again, I'm not sure how that's going to work. And then they did find a glove that they believe looks like the glove that was in the video. When they got the glove, they also got some DNA. Now, the glove was thrown out like 2 miles away from...
I think one was 10 miles.
Wow. Which reminds me, we were looking for social markers, how to describe generations. And I don't know about you, but my parents, my father in particular, that generation, baby boomers, right? No,
Yeah.
the one before that is...
The silent generation.
Yeah. One of the markers I think we should nominate for them is that's the last of the throwing garbage out your car window while you're driving down the highway.
Yeah.
And of course that also with the cracking of the window while smoking in the car, that was supposed to help. Right. So but anyway, so yeah, they found the glove and they found some DNA on it. And of course, that begs the question. Yes, you found some DNA, you found the glove, and it doesn't match Nancy's. So great.
Could be
things are looking up. But of course, what are you comparing it to? And then, believe it or not, this is the conspiracy part. The news media has admitted that the FBI said that if they can't find anything in the,
criminal
databases, they're going to start tapping the public databases and that whole
23andMe and Ancestry.
Yeah. So there you go.
For next of kin.
So much for private, HIPAA things. I mean, that's health stuff, right?
Right.
And of course, you didn't sign up for that. So, that's what's been going on, and hopefully a better outcome. Oh, and just one other topic. Looking at our Spotify reach, or at least the demographics, the analytics that I'm starting to see of where and who's listening, and which we certainly appreciate. But the the fun thing is, of course, our fan in Moscow.
Yeah, you mentioned that yesterday.
They're still listening.
Okay, good.
Yep, and I'm still waiting for the vodka. But the neat thing is, as more folks listen, then they get more samples of where and how and who. So in Ohio, we've got 3 states that we've got listeners in. Of course, North Carolina makes sense. That's where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And Ohio makes sense. That's where we're from.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Hilliard, Carroll, Columbus, New Albany, Westerville, Cleveland, North Royalton, and Lancaster,
Mm-hmm.
or Lancaster, as the locals say. But let's give a shout out to Kentucky.
Well, Kentucky is a state.
That's right. Florence, Kentucky, which really is Cincinnati, which is Ohio. But
Cincinnati.
So we appreciate that as well. So, I wanted to get into a conversation about, with the Olympics going on. I know you feel somewhat nostalgic about the whole idea of sports and athletes and coaches. And so we kind of wanted to dive deep into the idea of participation in sports today,
mm-hmm.
which I know one of the things that we were talking about before we got on mic was, where is it? I mean, there has been a huge decline.
Well, you're not playing sports in school.
Exactly. The funding doesn't exist,
Mm-mm.
and or it's this pay to play notion.
Right. Pay to be on the team. You're not trying out for the team, but you're paying to be on the team. Doesn't mean you're guaranteed to play. But and then there's the participation trophies. So, where are these kids getting their love of the game? There's no backyard pickup game of whatever sport you're doing, because you never learned it in school. Heck, our kids, they never even played kickball at school. What?
Yeah,
Oh.
and the only real organized sport that existed was you run around the track. Well, what it was
fun run.
Yeah,
oh, my
booster.
nemesis.
It was a thinly veiled attempt at athletic competition.
Mm-hmm. You get sponsors per lap.
That the more laps you ran, the more that person who sponsored you would have to pay the boosters.
Mm-hmm. And you're thinking it's a big track. No,
it's just, but regardless, it's the idea of, none of our kids, well, again, the education system with Common Core, by the time after you spent 8 hours almost literally in school, is there really any time for
sports,
extracurricular activities? And then if so, again, it was not really organized in the schools like it used to be in our day. I mean, there was all of them. I mean, everything from volleyball to golf to, it was everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a reason behind that. It was all about, remember Title IX?
Mm-hmm.
So Title IX made it that men and women had to have equal access to all the school's resources,
mm-hmm.
meaning, sports.
Yeah, you had the high school tennis team, swimming team, gymnastics, volleyball. You didn't have to pay to participate in those. You would try out for the team.
But I think,
and you had practices, and
I think one of the things that made it was kind of fun at the time. Well, again, depending on which end of this you were, right? Sometimes the parents were a little overbearing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There were those.
You
they would argue with the coach,
right? And parent pressure, or the drive that everyone is trying to win, but not everyone can win, right? And you'd have this overarching pressure sometimes from parents to make their kids perform better. And again, this is back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, right?
Mm-hmm.
When there was still participation in sports,
right.
in school. That is,
Mm-hmm.
But then, and again, I'm not blaming Title IX, but all of a sudden you had equality, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just now that you've taken those resources, because it was expensive.
Yeah.
And so I think what maybe, and again, maybe this is part of the cause and effect. So you had an influx, the most ever participation in sports in school was from 75 to the late, early to mid 90s. And that's again because why? Girls were allowed to participate in
and
sports.
Encouraged.
Of course, now the weird thing's happening is that boys that are girls that want to be girls that are boys are now wanting to participate in the other sport. But that's a whole other topic. But so I think that in trying equality, in trying to make everything equal. Now, do you realize, and again, looking at the Olympics, and so again, why we're being somewhat, talking about sports, or at least this idea of competition.
Right. And how do they get to the Olympics? How do you create these athletes?
And so what I was, I thought this was interesting. Again, the U.S. is if not, if I'm not mistaken, you
Third.
did in count, gold, medal count, and that's a lot of Big Macs if you had the right scratcher.
Right.
But my point is that so you had Title IX that brought everyone into sports here in this country, but you realize that in Europe, sports has nothing to do with the education system. Completely not. It's not part of it. They consider it important, but as a matter of fact,
well, that's because you don't get to go to school. You must train all day.
But so here is again an example of which way's best, and I think here in the grand old USA, we like to have it every way we possibly can,
right?
Or we always want what someone else wants, but better. It's if you look at, then there have been studies that have talked about athletic participation in the school level, elementary, high school, college. It's actually a negative to the academic side of things, and I think we all know that, right? What's the cliche joke? The quarterback is majoring in basket weaving.
Yeah, underwater basket weaving.
To get their scholarship. And again, I'm not taking anything away from those that did and are got the education, but the reality is that there's so much pressure to perform well in sports. How do you do both?
I don't know. And let's talk about coaches. In these other countries that don't do the sports in school, and it's a way of life there. Do they get results because of the extreme coaching, the negativity, the screaming, the yelling? That works on some kids. It's not going to work on all kids. Are we not turning out as many Olympic athletes because we've decided that those coaches that use fear and intimidation, that is bad. It's bad, but some kids do thrive on it. That's how you get them to achieve certain things. I remember, back in the day when I was a competitive gymnast, I was terrified of my coach. I joked that was my first abusive relationship, but they got me to get outside of my head. That's how they get these young gymnasts to do these amazing death-defying tricks. Because when the coach says go for it, you go for it. You don't get a second chance to think about it. But I don't know, how do you get athletes to achieve?
Well, how much? But so what you're saying though is, how much of sports or any activity, how much is it physical and or mental, and think about again history. What's changed to make us be able to hit a golf ball further? Part of the technology that exists is that we can, high speed motion capture your swing and by coaching, give you advice and, your
understand the mechanics more.
Exactly. Create a better, mechanism or to your point, the swing in that case, or a gymnast in how they twirl or how they mount or gymnast things. But so when you talk about the coaching of it, how much is it that some of that motivation is good and maybe you can get something? It's personality. Just like with school, when I was going down the path of, with our kids and the Common Core educational program, if you will, right, that was started to unveil in 2007, 2008. Oh, no, later, 10, 11, something like that. It's still, you're like with coaching of a sport, you're dealing with the masses. Not everyone can learn the same way in school. Not everyone can be coached
the
same way in a sport. Now, you mentioned gymnastics. Obviously, you've got experience there, and ultimately, in those quote team sports
or individual sports,
you end up having your own coach. It's not like you're sharing somebody that like a head coach of a football team who's going to motivate you and the team to perform well, but have individual coaches do certain things like defense, offense, et cetera. But this idea of, do coaches push too much is what you're saying? I mean, that or is it a matter of, the abuse and fear is all it's motivational.
Well, and some don't perceive it that way. That I had a friend in gymnastics. She's a performance coach. She's, to get that extra oomph out of the athletes, she decided that if in the corporate world, if you have the Myers-Briggs test but the Myers-Briggs personality profile in how to communicate at work, why don't we apply that to athletes? Because one athlete might respond to the fear and intimidation to get them out of their own head, and another athlete, that's not the way to coach them. And sometimes the coach is the ENTP, and they don't know how to communicate any other way. So I thought that was brilliant, that because as we noticed with just the Olympics with Ilya, the figure skater, he had the yips. He couldn't get out of his head on his final skate. So you have natural talent, you have coaching, and then you have the athlete psyche to handle too. I mean, it's got to be tough.
And then you throw the parents in, add pressure to the kids to perform, or yell at the coach that they're not doing it the right way.
I still remember, after I had quit gymnastics, and I was at the Ohio State University as a student, and I was at the gym there, and I saw one of my old coaches walk around the corner. I won't say his name because I don't want to badmouth him, but I immediately got terrified, and I turned the corner and I hid. It's not like he's going to do anything to me, but it was just that visceral response. And it's like, oh, that's awful. That is absolutely awful. But
it's made you who you are today. And it's something that today's kids don't have that. They don't have the opportunity.
No, they don't.
Because school takes too long, too many things to do. Homework is ridiculous. And that idea, and again, it doesn't have to necessarily be a team participation sport. I mean, yeah, sure, gymnastics is, but it's also individual.
It's mostly individual.
Individual. But this generation doesn't have any of that.
Mm-mm.
And of course, I guess their biggest sport is playing
EA Sports.
Well, that's funny because that has become a paid thing, right?
A real college sport is doing EA Sports. You can get a scholarship for that. Yeah.
And apparently there are enough of these online tournaments
and people make money at it.
And people are making money at it. Just like this whole podcast, YouTube,
everybody
Twitter,
wants
TikTok,
to be a TikToker.
Everyone.
You interview, talk to kids in school. They don't want to be a fireman. They don't want to be a doctor, a lawyer. They want to be an influencer. They want to be a TikToker.
And see, that's a certain personality type too, right? One of your comments about coaching to what personality type. Everyone wants to be talked to the way they want to be talked to.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess in a way, the idea of coaching through fear and intimidation really isn't going to work. Or does it work for a certain type? Is it an extrovert judger that likes that sort of abusive?
Well, me personally, as much as I say that the trauma that it caused, I was a classic overthinker, and nothing I did was ever perfect enough. I wanted to be on the practice beam forever. I never wanted to take it up to the high beam because I didn't think it was good enough. So I needed the little help to get outside of my head.
So it was the coach that either gave you the limit or created artificial boundaries. Is that what you're saying?
And there were some good coaches that had that nice balance that I admired and I wanted to do well for them. But yeah, I mean, I still remember where they would say, Diane, you think too much. So then I would be the horse's ass and, pretending not to think. They're like, don't be an ass.
Well, and it was just your way to brush off.
Yeah.
But it didn't, of course, I don't think it necessarily got you to stop cycling in your head that overthinking. But, I mean, did it give you any insight that, hey, I'm pretty good? Is that a horrible thing as a coach to praise someone?
Well, no, and sometimes you need a little push. That's how you get better.
But okay, but push in what regard? That you can do better through repetition. You can do better by spending more time. What was that? I mean, what was that like? I mean, for you, it's a lot. You appreciate it. Again, it's a genetic thing. You're either born with that desire to stand on your head. I mean, part of it was that you like that sort of thing, standing on your head. It. Yeah.
But I did not like competition. I hated competitions, which is ironic because
is the goal of
the sport, right? And I should have loved it because I always won, but I hated it. I liked the doing. So, I guess you need to rattle some shoes for somebody that has natural talent, but, is just doing it. They like it for funsies.
Well, but then the sad part is, in your case, you just gave it up.
Yeah, well,
and part of it was
brain.
But in a lot of cases, like what we saw with, I mean, here's a good example, Lindsey Vonn, right?
With her knees, yeah.
She probably should have never went, right?
Right.
Considering the ACL issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, come to find out that's not the reason why she fell, is her arm got stuck. But it does question, the pushing yourself in these sports where it doesn't make sense. I mean, I had injured my leg 5 times in 1 year, and it was hard because the people that were beneath me talent-wise, they ended up surpassing me, and I couldn't get my head around the constant recovery. And my mother had said that if you need surgery to continue your sport, and that's not going to happen. If you need it to walk, then we'll have surgery. And I still wrestle with that today. I get what she's saying, but.
Well, again, so I guess only because I participated in sports like, golf. In golf, what's the worst thing? You're going to get a callus on your hand. I mean, what's the worst thing? You're going to get hit by a ball, maybe, but, or put drive your golf cart in a lake or get it stuck between 2 trees, but there's no physical injury. I mean, what, hemorrhoids? I mean, if you're, and the idea of not immediately, in my mind, you hurt yourself, you don't do it again, nor do you take the chance. And in your case, not only did you redo it, but you redid it worse each time.
Yeah.
What pushed? Was it coaching, or was it the fact that you just loved what this was?
I liked the sport,
but then there's a point where
it wasn't fun anymore. And the last workout, I was in a tumbling run and I got the yips in the middle of it, and I crashed onto my neck. I sprained both my wrists, And I went to the payphone because we had payphones back then. And I called my mom and I said, I'm done. She said, what? Practice is done? I said, no, I'm done. It's not fun anymore. and that was it.
Right. And I guess the sad part is that for all those years when you weren't necessarily as mentally mature to make the decisions, that's why you have a coach, maybe to push you. And then you get a little bit smarter and then you decide, okay, I'm done. Without being pushed or without any.
Well, and the sad part is that the coach never called to say, hey, let's talk about it.
Well, you don't know that.
Well, yeah, considering my mother. But yeah, all your little friends that, you're in the gym 4 hours a day, 6 days a week, and they're still training. And then all your friends go away. It was hard. Sports are hard.
But I think that being on a team, I think there's so many good things that come from it.
Yes. The challenge is learning adversity, learning when you don't win, what can you do? Not being perfect.
Well, the little things, throwing a ball,
Our bodies are meant to move.
I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just saying that the idea of being involved in something that is a physical challenge. I mean, sports aren't supposed to be easy, right?
Right.
I mean, if it's too easy, then it's not much of a challenge, or
then it's not fun,
or you're super gifted. It's just that I feel bad that this generation really doesn't have that opportunity.
They don't.
That that we did.
And we allow everybody to quit.
Oh, but one sport that I'm kind of excited about, flag football. I was a huge fan of flag football. I mean, football is fun, and more people can participate with the flags.
Yeah.
But there's apparently a flag football league starting. I don't know, Fox or one of the networks are going to carry it.
I'd give that a try to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's more about, I guess, plays. I forget whether if you were tackled by, say you're running you're on the front line and you're blocking, do you, as soon as a flag is ripped off, are you out of the play? I forget the rules. But I do have 6th grade. I can't, Mr. Kelly, I think, back in Ohio, was the gym teacher playing flag football. And unlike everyone else who had just basic gym shorts,
God,
elastic,
yeah,
waistband gym shorts.
Yeah,
I had a pair of shorts that, that's a little too early. That's my fault, and I forgot to mute. I had a pair of shorts that you could wear a belt with. They're not gym shorts, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole cheap parent thing, but so. You normally would wear the belt that has the flags Velcroed on.
Right.
We didn't have enough of those. So I had to put whatever they considered through a belt loop, which was great until it got ripped off, and so did my pants. Oh, I'll never forget that day. So, cue the music. A little too soon earlier, but neat conversation. And others still to come. We still want to talk more about Olympics or the fun events.
Yeah.
Motorboating. I guess we need to do that quick because it won't get out of my brain until we talk about what that was or other fun ones. And so other topics to come. Again, appreciate you spending some time with us or allowing us to spend time with you. Until next time, this is Jim.
I'm Diane.
And you're listening to The Work.